Picture a pre-dawn city silhouetted against a pale horizon. You wake before your alarm and lie there as light creeps through the curtains. The phone beside you is already alive, screen glowing with a chorus of reminders. Your thumb instinctively reaches for it, but your limbs feel like they are made of lead. There is a heaviness behind your eyes, a dull ache in your chest. You check your messages and scroll through a stream of updates. A colleague has sent an urgent email. Someone has tagged you in a photo. Another news headline trumpets an impending crisis. Your mind is immediately pulled into a dozen directions, yet your body remains rooted to the bed. You wonder why a night's sleep leaves you feeling as if you have not rested at all. Have you ever sat in that suspended twilight between dreaming and waking, desperate to move forward, but unable to muster the will? You are not alone. The exhaustion and lack of motivation you feel is not a moral failing. It is a symptom of something deeper than laziness or lack of discipline. Understanding that can profoundly change your life. Think of the moments when you drag yourself to the kitchen and stare blankly into the refrigerator. You are not hungry, but you're looking for something. Maybe a spark, a small thrill to get you through the next hour, a bitter coffee, a sweet pastry. You prepare breakfast on autopilot, each motion rehearsed but strangely foreign. You glance at the clock and think about the day ahead, the endless to-do list, the projects demanding your attention, the messages to answer. An invisible weight sits on your shoulders. As you commute, the world rushes past in a blur. Your mind drifts to the dreams you had when you were younger, of adventures, purpose, laughter. Now the glow of your phone competes with the morning sun, and your heart beats along with the vibrating notifications. You feel as if you are running a marathon at a sprinter's pace, lungs straining, legs aching, yet never reaching the finish line. In those quiet moments, when the engine of your life idles, and you are left alone with your thoughts, a deeper dread creeps in. What if this is the way it will always be? You have likely felt that spike of energy that accompanies a text message, the tiny rush when someone likes your post or you cross something off your list. It is fleeting, a brief surge of motivation, followed by a familiar slump. You might blame yourself. Maybe you are ungrateful or unfocused. Our culture encourages us to chase constant stimulation, to fill every gap with news feeds, instant messages, music, and podcasts. We are bombarded by a torrent of micro-rewards, each one releasing a small hit of dopamine and promising us satisfaction. Over time, the highs blur together and leave us feeling strangely flat. We push ourselves harder, drink more coffee, scroll through our phones when we are bored, then feel guilty for being tired and distracted. The voice in your head whispers that you should be more disciplined, but perhaps there is a quieter, kinder truth. As you sink into the softness of a sofa after a long day, maybe you have noticed a different kind of tiredness, one that sleep does not erase. Your thoughts are foggy, you forget simple things, you lose interest in activities that once brought you joy. This exhaustion is not just physical, it is emotional and cognitive. The World Health Organization describes burnout as a syndrome resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed, marked by exhaustion, feelings of cynicism or mental distance from your work, and a reduced sense of professional efficacy. In a recent survey, nearly 3 in 5 employees reported negative impacts of work-related stress, including lack of interest, motivation, or energy. Many also reported cognitive weariness and emotional exhaustion. Those statistics echo your lived experience. You are part of a generation that is both overconnected and overstressed, suffering from digital fatigue and relentless demands. Recognizing this shared plight can be both sobering and comforting. The truth few people realize is that your lethargy and lack of drive may not be a sign of weakness. It is the culmination of hidden forces working quietly within you. We live in a world where our bodies and brains evolved for a very different environment. Your nervous system is wired to handle acute threats, a lion stalking through the grass, a sudden storm. When the threat passes, your parasympathetic nervous system calms your body down. Modern life, however, exposes us to unrelenting stressors. Work deadlines, social media, news of global crises keep our fight-or-flight response engaged far longer than it was designed to. Chronic stress triggers the release of cortisol and other stress hormones, increasing your heart rate and flooding your bloodstream with glucose for quick energy. Over time, repeated activation of this stress response takes a toll. It can contribute to high blood pressure, promote artery clogging deposits, and cause brain changes that may contribute to anxiety, depression, and addiction. Cortisol increases appetite and encourages your body to store unused nutrients as fat. In short, your biology is working against a world of constant demands. Another invisible factor is the delicate balance of neurotransmitters. Dopamine is a chemical messenger that plays a vital role in motivation, reward, learning, and movement. It is released when you anticipate or achieve something rewarding. In the clinical world, dopamine is known for facilitating smooth, coordinated movements, but its functions extend far beyond that. Dr. William Ondo, a neurologist, explains that dopamine release helps provide you with the desire to feel good. When dopamine levels are low, you may feel unmotivated, tired, and unable to derive pleasure from activities that used to satisfy you. Some people misinterpret every slump as dopamine deficiency, but it is not an official diagnosis. Dopamine production is tightly regulated, and conditions like ADH or depression are not simply caused by too little dopamine. However, baseline dopamine levels do decline with age by about 35% by the time we are 75 years old, and lifestyle factors can influence how effectively your brain responds to this neurotransmitter. Constant overstimulation can disrupt your dopamine balance. Each time you pick up your phone, your brain receives a tiny reward, a burst of dopamine that makes you want to repeat the behavior. When rewards come too often or too intensely, whether from social media, caffeine, shopping, or high-stakes work deals, your brain resets its pleasure-pain balance. It counterbalances the surge with pain signals, develops tolerance, and eventually lowers your baseline dopamine. You become dependent on those highs and feel persistent boredom and lethargy when you are not stimulated. This is sometimes referred to as dopamine burnout, and it explains why you feel restless yet unmotivated after hours of screen time. The same cycle happens in more subtle ways, pushing through endless tasks without rest, layering sources of stimulation, energy drinks, music, social interaction, until your brain and body crash. We live in a culture that glorifies hustle and constant engagement, so we rarely allow our nervous systems to return to baseline. It is important to dispel a few misconceptions. No dopamine detox can reset your brain by fasting from activities. Dopamine doesn't decrease when you avoid overstimulating activities. You cannot starve a molecule that your body naturally produces. The original intent behind dopamine fasting was to encourage mindfulness and reduce compulsive behaviors, not to manipulate dopamine levels. Supplements that promise to boost dopamine are similarly misleading. As Dr. Ondo notes, taking a precursor supplement does not necessarily increase dopamine in the brain. What does help is addressing the root causes of burnout and stress, and gently supporting your body's natural rhythms. The science of fatigue tells us that when the communication between the brain's striatum and prefrontal cortex, regions reliant on dopamine, is disrupted, we experience fatigue that sleep does not resolve. Neuroimaging studies show abnormalities in these regions in people with conditions like multiple sclerosis and traumatic brain injury. And dopaminergic medications sometimes alleviate their fatigue. Researchers propose a dopamine imbalance hypothesis. Fatigue arises when there is too much or too little dopamine in specific brain circuits. This isn't restricted to neurological disorders. It suggests that our motivation and energy depend on finely tuned dopamine signals. When those signals are constantly spiked and suppressed, we feel drained. On top of the neurological picture sits the human context of stress and meaning. Burnout isn't just physical exhaustion. It is also emotional cynicism and feeling that your work lacks value. The 2021 survey found that 79% of employees experienced work-related stress, with many reporting lack of interest or energy and physical fatigue. That exhaustion is compounded by the way we were raised and the environments we inhabit. Individuals who grow up in hostile or unsupportive environments often have depleted resilience. Conversely, a strong sense of control, purpose, optimism, and supportive social ties are associated with resilience. Resilience isn't a fixed trait, but a dynamic process shaped by social, psychological, and biological factors. Genetically and epigenetically, elements of the stress response system, the HPA axis and serotonergic and dopaminergic pathways, may be linked to resilience. These layers explain why some people can endure high demands without burning out while others collapse under moderate stress. Our relationship with fatigue is influenced by culture. We glorify productivity and treat rest as laziness. Yet boredom and rest are essential for mental health. Without boredom, our minds cannot wander to new ideas or process emotions. We become trapped in a reactive loop, reaching for our phones at the slightest hint of discomfort. This is why you feel restless when there is nothing to do. Your brain expects constant stimulation and has forgotten how to be still. You may feel guilty for wanting to rest, but rest is the soil in which creativity and resilience grow. It is the space in which you rediscover who you are when you are not performing for others. Ancient wisdom echoes these insights. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When external demands overwhelm you, remembering that the only thing you truly control is your response can be liberating. The Buddha taught the value of mindful awareness. By observing sensations and thoughts without judgment, we can free ourselves from habitual reactivity. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived concentration camps, observed that when we can no longer change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Such teachings remind us that while we cannot escape the modern world, we can change how we engage with it. We can cultivate practices that soothe our nervous systems and support healthy dopamine regulation. So how do we translate these insights into a new relationship with fatigue? The first step is to treat your body like a finely tuned instrument, rather than a machine to be whipped into submission. Start with sleep and sunlight. The neuroscientist Andrew Huberman recommends viewing early morning sunlight for 10 to 30 minutes each day to trigger dopamine release and support your circadian rhythm. Exposure to natural light not only lifts your mood, it also resets the timing of hormonal release. If you are brave, a brief cold shower can increase dopamine for hours. Tyrosine-rich foods, such as chicken, nuts, hard cheese, apples, avocados, and beans, provide the building blocks your body needs to make dopamine. And while caffeine gives a mild dopamine boost, avoid ingesting it too late in the day. Limit melatonin supplements. They can decrease dopamine and disrupt sleep. Most importantly, guard the sanctity of your sleep by avoiding bright lights between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. Bright light at night activates the habenula and drastically reduces dopamine. Movement is another key. Exercise has been shown to increase dopamine levels by fostering the anticipation of improved mood and physical performance. Regular physical activity deepens your breathing, relieves muscle tension, and activates the parasympathetic rest and digest system. Practices like yoga, tai chi, and qigong combine fluid movements with mental focus, and induce calm. Mindfulness meditation helps regulate emotions, fosters structural changes in the prefrontal cortex, amygdala, and hippocampus, and increases mental energy. NIH.gov. Even a simple gratitude practice can tilt your brain's attention toward positive experiences and create gentle dopamine releases. The key is to integrate these activities consistently, not as occasional cures. Attention management is another powerful tool. Instead of succumbing to the constant barrage of notifications, practice intermittent reward timing. Celebrate some accomplishments and deliberately withhold celebration at other times to maintain your dopamine baseline. Avoid layering sources of stimulation. Too many simultaneous dopamine triggers lead to crashes and undermine motivation. Focus visually on a single point when working intensely. This recruits neurochemicals and enhances readiness and focus. Remind yourself that your brain does not know external rewards. It only knows associations. Tell yourself you are moving toward your goals, and your prefrontal cortex will stimulate dopamine release. Use these cognitive strategies to become a partner with your biology rather than a victim of it. Cultivating resilience also involves addressing your environment and mindset. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, helps identify negative thinking patterns related to work stress and fosters new coping responses. It has been found beneficial for improving work performance and reducing mental strain in people with burnout. After around 10 weeks of CBT, individuals often notice improvement in symptoms, although cognitive challenges may persist. Mindfulness meditation encourages non-judgmental awareness and reappraisal of negative emotions. It increases psychological flexibility and can lead to positive structural brain changes. Engaging in CBT, mindfulness, or both can shift your relationship to stress and fatigue, allowing you to reclaim energy. Reframing your story is perhaps the most transformative step. Maybe you have told yourself that you are lazy or broken because you cannot keep up with everyone around you. What if the story is wrong? What if your lack of energy is not a personal defect, but a sign that your body and mind need different conditions to thrive? By understanding the neurochemical and psychological roots of fatigue, you can release the shame that often accompanies burnout. Instead of seeing yourself as a machine that needs to be fixed, you can see yourself as a human being in a particular environment, living through unprecedented levels of stimulation and stress. You are not weak for feeling overwhelmed. Your body is doing its best to protect you. What if this struggle is not a punishment, but an invitation to realign your life with what truly matters? Consider gently trying this. The next time you feel that familiar wave of exhaustion, pause instead of pushing through. Take 3 deep breaths and notice the sensations in your body. Ask yourself, what am I craving right now? If the answer is another hit of stimulation, checking your phone, drinking coffee, binge watching, see if you can sit with the discomfort for a moment. Perhaps go outside and let sunlight warm your face. Walk slowly and feel your feet on the ground. Eat something nourishing and savor each bite. In the evening, dim the lights and read a book instead of scrolling. Plan something fun to look forward to. A hike, a visit with a friend, because the anticipation itself releases dopamine. When you accomplish a task, sometimes celebrate with a stretch or dance, and other times simply acknowledge it and keep moving. Notice how varying your rewards keeps you engaged without crashing. When thoughts of work creep back in, remember that meaning buffers stress. Find purpose outside your occupation. Volunteer, cultivate a hobby, learn something new. Studies show that individuals who find existential meaning outside work experience more satisfaction and reduce burnout. If your job drains you, explore whether you can adjust expectations or reduce energy spent on low-priority tasks. Seek support from friends and loved ones. Social connections increase longevity and help buffer chronic stress. Recognize that resilience isn't about toughing it out alone. It is about leaning into relationships, nurturing your body, and honoring your emotional life. You are not your job title, your productivity metrics, or the number of likes on your latest post. You are a complex being of flesh, neurons, and spirit. You are wired for deep rest, for purposeful action, for connection. You are not the perpetual tiredness that has plagued you. Instead, you are the awareness that notices the tiredness and yearns for change. As you begin to reclaim your rhythms, honoring cycles of light and dark, allowing yourself moments of boredom, fueling your body with real food, moving in ways that feel good, resting without guilt, you will begin to rediscover genuine energy. Your motivation will no longer be a desperate grasping for the next dopamine hit, but a steady flame that guides you toward what matters. You're not alone on this journey. Millions of others are waking up to the real causes of burnout and choosing a different way. So right now, take a gentle breath. Feel the weight of your body on the chair or bed, the texture of your clothing against your skin. Allow yourself the peace of knowing that nothing is wrong with you. You are a human being navigating a chaotic world with a beautifully sensitive brain. And in that recognition lies the beginning of freedom,